The ships came out of the dark like wounded animals. Ambassador Keth Varn stood at the observation deck of Station Prime and watched them drift closer. There were hundreds of vessels, maybe thousands. Some were sleek and built for speed. Others were little more than metal boxes held together by hope and welding. They moved in a loose formation, protecting the weakest ships in the center like a herd protecting its young. "What are they?" asked his assistant, a young Silith with fresh scales. Keth Varn checked his data screen. The readings made no sense. The ships used primitive fusion drives. Their communication signals were simple radio waves. They had no shields, no faster-than-light messaging, no weapons worth mentioning. "They call themselves humans," he said. "From a world called Earth. Never heard of it. No one has. Their star died. They fled." The assistant made a sound of disgust. "Refugees. Wonderful. Another burden for the council to manage." Keth Varn said nothing. He watched the fleet grow larger in the viewport. Something about these creatures made his scales itch. He had processed 1,000 refugee species in his career. He knew the look of the desperate, the broken, the defeated. These humans should have that look. They did not. The first human ship to dock was called the Perseverance. Keth Varn found the name strange. It was not a threat or a boast. It was a promise. The airlock opened, and the humans walked out. Keth Varn had seen the images in the preliminary scans, but seeing them in person was different. They were soft creatures with no claws, no scales, no shells. Their skin came in various shades of brown and pink. They had hair on their heads like decorative grass, and their eyes moved constantly, taking in everything, measuring everything. The leader stepped forward. She was a small female with gray hair and a straight back. Her name was Captain Elena Vasquez. "Thank you for receiving us," she said. Her translator device made her words understandable, though her actual voice was strange, warm, almost musical. "The Galactic Council welcomes all who come in peace," Keth Varn recited. "You will be processed and assigned a settlement zone according to your population and resource needs. We appreciate that. We have nearly 4 million people across our fleet. Many are tired. Some are sick. All are grateful. 4 million. Keth Varn had expected maybe 100,000 at most. This changed things. "That is a large population for refugee processing," he said carefully. Captain Vasquez smiled. It was a terrible sight. She pulled back her lips and showed her teeth, white and flat, and somehow threatening despite their bluntness. Keth Varn forced himself not to step back. "We saved everyone we could," she said. "We left no one behind." Over the next several days, Keth Varn learned more about humanity than he wanted to know. They were impossible creatures. Their biology made no sense. They needed to sleep for a third of each day, but they did so in shifts so that someone was always awake. They consumed both plants and meat, which meant they could eat almost anything. Their bodies healed from injuries that would kill other species. They could survive temperature extremes, pressure changes, and radiation levels that should be lethal. But their most disturbing feature was their children. The humans had brought children on their escape ships. Not just a few children kept safe in special vessels. Children everywhere. On warships, on cargo haulers, on tiny shuttles barely fit for travel. Children running through corridors, playing games, laughing. "Why would you bring offspring on a military vessel?" Keth Varn asked Captain Vasquez during one of their meetings. She looked at him like he had asked a very stupid question. "Where else would they go? They are our future. Everything we do is for them. But they could be killed. They could be endangered." "Yes," she said simply. "That is why we fight so hard to protect them. A warrior with nothing to lose is dangerous. A parent protecting their child is unstoppable." The Council assigned humanity a moon dot. It was a cold, barren rock orbiting a dying gas giant in a forgotten system. The soil was toxic. The atmosphere was thin. There was no water on the surface. It was, by any reasonable measure, worthless. Cathvaran delivered the news himself, expecting despair or anger. Captain Vasquez just nodded. "We will make it work. We are good at making things work." He believed her. That was the frightening part. The humans landed on their dead moon and began to build. Within one cycle, they had established sealed habitats. Within 2 cycles, they had found underground water and begun processing the toxic soil. Within 3 cycles, they had constructed cities. Cathvaran requested permission to visit. What he found shook him to his core. The humans had transformed their wasteland into a home. There were gardens growing under artificial lights. There were schools filled with children. There were markets where humans traded with each other using a complex system of favors and promises. There was music playing from speakers on every corner. Music. They had nearly gone extinct. And they were playing music. He found Captain Vasquez in what they called a park, an open space with artificial grass and small trees. She was sitting on a bench, watching children play a game that involved kicking a ball. "You seem surprised," she said without looking at him. "Your people should be in mourning. You lost your world, your star, everything." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "We carry our world with us, Ambassador. It lives in our stories, our songs, our memories. Earth is gone, but Earth is also right here." She touched her chest. "We mourn, yes. We weep for what we lost. But we also celebrate what we saved. That is how humans survive. We hold our grief in one hand and our hope in the other, and we keep walking." Cathvaran filed his report that night. He marked it classified for Council eyes only. "The species known as humans presents no immediate threat," he wrote. "They possess no advanced technology, no military strength, no political influence. By all standard measures, they are insignificant." He paused, his claws hovering over the screen. "However," he continued, "I recommend careful observation. There is something in these creatures that our metrics do not capture. They smile when they should weep. They build when they should surrender. They brought their children into the void and taught them to laugh in the darkness." He saved the file and stared out at the stars. "I do not know what they are," he whispered to himself. "But I do not think the galaxy is ready for them." Far below, on the cold moon, a human child kicked a bowl and laughed. And somewhere in the distance, someone was playing a song about a home that no longer existed but would never be forgotten. 20 cycles had passed since the humans first arrived. The Galactic Council had forgotten about them. There were more important matters to discuss. The War of Crimson Suns had burned across 3 sectors for over 200 cycles, and it showed no signs of stopping. 2 elder races, the Kravith and the Mordain, fought over territory that neither truly needed. Millions died each cycle. Entire planets turned to ash. The Council watched and did nothing. The elder races were too powerful to challenge. Intervention meant death. Commander Yellen Vasquez sat in the captain's chair of the Perseverance and listened to the distress call for the 3rd time. The voice was Silith, young and terrified. "This is Medical Station Theta 7. We are caught in the crossfire. Our shields are failing. We have 12,000 patients and staff aboard. Please, someone, anyone, help us." The bridge was silent. Every officer knew what the call meant. They also knew what the Council's laws said. No intervention in elder race conflicts. No exceptions. The penalty was the complete destruction of the offending species. How far? Yellen asked. Her navigation officer checked his screen. 4 hours at maximum burn. And the battle? Heavy fighting. Kravith dreadnoughts exchanging fire with Mordain carriers. The station is right in the middle. Lieutenant Chen, her weapons officer, spoke carefully. Commander, if we go in there, we will not come out. We have one ship. They have hundreds. Our weapons are 50 cycles out of date. Our shields are held together with spare parts and prayers. Yellen knew all of this. She had served on the Perseverance for 15 cycles. She knew every weakness, every flaw, every system that could fail at the worst moment. But she also knew something else. Play the distress call again, she said. The bridge filled with the sound of the young Silith voice. In the background, they could hear explosions. Children crying. Someone screaming. 12,000 souls, Yellen said quietly. That is 12,000 people who will die tonight because no one is willing to help them. Because the Council says it is too dangerous. Because the rules say we should look away. She stood up from her chair. I did not survive the death of Earth to become the kind of person who lets children die because of rules. If anyone wants to leave, the escape pods are on deck 7. No one will think less of you. But I am going to that station, and I am bringing those people home. No one moved toward the escape pods. The Perseverance burned hard toward the war zone. They arrived to find hell. The space around the medical station was filled with fire and debris. Kravith energy beams carved through the darkness. Mordain missiles screamed past in swarms. The station itself was spinning slowly, its hull torn open in 3 places. They have seen us, Chen reported. Kravith command ship is hailing. They are ordering us to leave or be destroyed. Yellen smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Open a channel to all ships. Broadcast on every frequency. The communication officer nodded. Channel open. Yellen spoke clearly and calmly. This is Commander Yellen Vasquez of the human vessel Perseverance. We are here to evacuate the medical station. We have no interest in your war. We will not fire unless fired upon. But we will not leave those people to die. The response came quickly. A Kravith commander, his voice dripping with contempt. You are insects. You have no place here. Leave now, or we will crush you without a second thought. Yellen cut the channel. Begin evacuation operations. All shuttles launch. What followed was unlike anything the elder races had ever seen. The Perseverance did not fight like a warship. It fought like a ghost. It used the debris field for cover, appearing and disappearing, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. When the Kravith fired, the humans were already gone. When the Mordain launched missiles, the Perseverance released clouds of reflective chaff that confused the guidance systems. And all the while, human shuttles flew to the station. The pilots were insane by any reasonable standard. They flew through active crossfire, dodging beams and missiles by margins so thin that their hulls were scorched. They docked with the spinning station, loaded passengers, and flew back through the chaos. One pilot, a young woman named Sarah Chun, made the trip 11 times. The Kravith commander grew frustrated. He ordered a direct assault on the Perseverance. 20 fighters swarmed toward the human ship. The Len gave a strange order. Play music on all frequencies. Maximum volume. The communication officer looked confused but obeyed. Suddenly, every ship in the battle zone was receiving a human broadcast. It was something called rock and roll, loud and aggressive and filled with screaming guitars. The Kravith targeting systems went haywire. The music created interference patterns they had never encountered. Their formation scattered as each fighter received different, conflicting data. In the confusion, the Perseverance destroyed 8 fighters and disabled 4 more. What is this madness? The Kravith commander screamed. No one answered him. The humans were too busy saving lives. The evacuation took 9 hours. 9 hours of constant danger, constant movement, constant fear. By the end, The Perseverance had suffered critical damage to 3 decks. 17 crew members were dead. The ship was barely able to fly, but 40,000 refugees filled every available space on board. They came from 12 different species. Silith patients, Gorath nurses, Velith doctors, children of races that had been enemies for centuries. They huddled together in cargo bays and corridors, united by one simple fact. The humans had come for them when no one else would. The Kravith commander sent a final message as the Perseverance limped away. The Council will hear of this. Your species will be punished. You will regret this day. Yellen responded with 2 words. Worth it. The aftermath was chaos. The Council demanded that humanity be sanctioned. The elder races demanded blood. But something unexpected happened. The species, whose people had been saved, refused. The Silith ambassador stood before the Council and spoke words that had not been spoken in 10,000 cycles. No. The chamber fell silent. The humans risked everything for our people. The ambassador continued. They did not ask for payment. They did not ask for alliance. They came because people were dying, and they could not stand by and watch. If the Council punishes them for this, the Silith will withdraw from the Council. Other ambassadors stood. The Velith, the Gorath, the small, timid Kesh who had never defied anyone. One by one, they added their voices. We stand with the humans. For the first time in living memory, a Council backed down. The elder races were furious but impotent. They could not afford a war with half the galaxy's minor species over one human ship. And in the outer systems, in the forgotten colonies and desperate outposts, a message began to spread. It passed from trader to trader, from refugee to refugee, from child to child. The humans came for us. When the galaxy abandoned us, when the powerful looked away, when all hope was lost, the humans came. They were small. They were weak. Their ship was held together with rust and stubbornness. But they came, and that changed everything. High Inquisitor Morath had served the Obsidian Sea for 300 cycles. The sea was the Council's secret hand. They watched. They investigated. They eliminated threats before those threats could grow. Morath had destroyed 17 species in his career. He had ended rebellions, crushed uprisings, and erased entire civilizations from history. He was very good at his work. Now the Council had given him a new assignment: understand the humans. He began with data. He collected every piece of information the galaxy had on the strange refugees. He studied their biology, their history, their technology. He interviewed species who had encountered them. He watched recordings of their behavior. After 30 days, he had reached a conclusion. Humans were unremarkable. Their bodies were fragile. They lived barely 100 cycles at most. They had no natural weapons, no armor, no venom. Any Gorath child could kill an adult human with one blow. Their senses were dull. They could not see in the dark, could not hear high frequencies, could not smell danger approaching. They should have died out long ago. Their technology was equally unimpressive. Everything they used was borrowed or stolen from other species. They had no original innovations, no unique sciences, no special gifts. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were weak. Their computers were primitive. And yet, Morath stared at his data screens and felt something he had not felt in 200 cycles. Confusion. The humans had arrived with nothing and built a civilization in 20 cycles. They had defied the elder races and survived. They had spread to 11 worlds, all of them worthless rocks that no other species wanted, and somehow made each one thrive. How? He dug deeper. He found stories. Small stories scattered across human history. A group of humans trapped in frozen mountains, who survived by eating their dead and walking 300 miles through ice storms. A human child who fell into a river and was dead for 20 minutes, then came back to life and lived another 60 cycles. A human city destroyed by an earthquake that was rebuilt in 2 cycles, bigger than before. He found records of human wars. Terrible, brutal conflicts where humans killed each other by the millions. And then, somehow, they stopped. They made peace. They built monuments to their dead and promised to do better. He found art, paintings of suffering and hope. Music that made even Marth's cold heart feel something strange. Stories of heroes who gave their lives for strangers, for ideas, for things they would never see completed. He found the secret dot. It was not technology. It was not biology. It was something else entirely. Humans believed. When a human decided something would happen, they acted as if it was already true. They did not hope they would survive. They decided they would survive, and then they made it happen. They did not wish for a better future. They built one stone by stone, generation by generation. It was madness. It was completely irrational. And it worked. Morith found ancient records in the deepest archives of the Obsidian Sea, files that had not been opened in 10,000 cycles. Texts from the first architects, the beings who had seeded life across the galaxy before vanishing into the void. Most of the texts were damaged or incomplete. But one passage remained clear. We created many children, the text read. To each we gave a gift, speed, strength, long life, unity of mind. But to the last-born, the wanderers, we gave nothing visible. We gave them only the fire. Morith read on. The fire is not a power of the body. It is a power of the soul. When the wanderers believe together, when they commit their hearts to a single purpose, they bend the shape of what is possible. They do not break the laws of reality. They simply refuse to accept them. There was more. Beware the wanderers. They will seem weak. They will seem harmless. Other children will dismiss them, mock them, try to destroy them. This is the trap. The wanderers grow stronger through struggle. Each defeat makes them more determined. Each enemy makes them more united. They are the fire that grows hotter when you try to smother it. Morith sat in darkness for a long time, thinking. He had destroyed 17 species. Each one had possessed some great advantage, superior technology, vast numbers, powerful psionics. He had found their weakness and exploited it. But humans had no weakness he could exploit. Their weakness was their strength. They were fragile, so they built strong shelters. They lived short lives, so they worked without rest. They had no natural weapons, so they created weapons from everything around them. Every limitation had become a motivation, and their belief, their impossible, irrational belief, was beyond his ability to counter. How do you defeat an enemy that does not know it is supposed to lose? He requested an audience with the council. He prepared his report carefully, choosing his words with precision. This was the most important briefing of his career. The council listened in silence. When he finished, the eldest member spoke. His name was Varix, and he had ruled his sector for 30,000 cycles. You suggest that these humans are a threat, Varix said. These tiny, short-lived creatures with their borrowed ships and their salvage technology. Yes, High Lord. Based on what evidence? They have no fleet. They control no valuable territory. They have no allies of significance. They have something more dangerous, Morith said. They have an idea, and that idea is spreading. Varix laughed. It was not a kind sound. Ideas do not threaten empires. Power threatens empires. And humans have no power. With respect, High Lord, the minor species who stood with them after the medical station rescue have already begun changing. The Silith are questioning their caste system. The Velith are demanding representation on the council. Small changes now, but they are growing. Then we will crush those changes. That will only make the idea stronger. The humans do not fight with weapons. They fight with hope. Every time we strike at them, every time we prove ourselves cruel and unjust, we prove their point. We show the galaxy that the Council fears them. The chamber was quiet. Finally, Varric spoke again. What do you recommend? Morith hesitated. In 300 cycles, he had never said what he was about to say. I recommend we do nothing. We watch. We wait. We let the humans believe they are beneath our notice. Perhaps they will fade. Perhaps their fire will burn out. And if it does not? Morith looked at the ancient text on his data screen. There was one more line, one he had not shared with the Council. It read, when the fire reaches its full strength, no force in the galaxy will extinguish it. The Wanderers will not conquer. They will transform. And the universe will never be the same. If it does not, Morith said slowly, then I do not think there is anything we can do. The Council dismissed him. They called his concerns foolish. They returned to their wars and their politics and their ancient games of power. Morith returned to his chambers and began preparing. He did not know exactly what was coming, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The humans were not what they appeared to be, and the galaxy was about to learn that lesson the hard way. 50 cycles after the Wanderers first arrived, the galaxy had begun to change. No one could point to the exact moment it started. There was no single event, no great battle, no dramatic announcement. The change came slowly, like water wearing down stone. It started with trade. Human merchants traveled to stations and colonies that other species avoided. They did not demand payment in credits or resources. They traded in something simpler: skills, stories, favors. A human engineer would fix a broken ship for free and ask only that the captain carry a message to another system. A human doctor would treat patients without payment and ask only that they remember the name of the ship that helped them. It started with marriages. Humans fell in love with beings from other species. This should have been impossible. Humans could not reproduce with anyone but other humans. But they did not seem to care about reproduction. They cared about connection. Human traders married Velith merchants. Human soldiers married Silith scholars. They built families that had no biological basis, but were somehow stronger for it. It started with questions. Human children asked things that no one had ever asked. Why did the Council rule? Why were some species wealthy while others starved? Why did ancient laws still bind beings who had never agreed to them? The elder races watched this happening and grew afraid. Admiral Chun Wei-Lin sat in her command chair on the Indomitable, the flagship of humanity's new fleet. She was 60 cycles old, her hair completely white now, her face lined with years of struggle. She had fought in 100 small battles. She had lost friends, lovers, ships. She had never stopped fighting. Her communication officer spoke. Admiral, we are receiving a priority message from Ericsson's Landing. Ericsson's Landing was a human colony on the edge of Council space. 2 million people lived there, farming the difficult land, building cities in the valleys, raising children under alien stars. Put it through, Chun said. The face that appeared on screen was young. A girl, maybe 16 cycles old. Her name was Maria, and she was the daughter of the colony's governor. Admiral, they are coming, Maria said. Her voice was steady, but Chun could see the fear in her eyes. The Council has sent a fleet. 200 warships. They say we have violated 14 treaty provisions. They say they are coming to restore order. Chun knew what that meant. Ericsson's Landing had committed no crimes, but the colony had become a symbol. Refugees from a dozen species had settled there, living alongside humans, building something new together. The Council could not allow that example to exist. Restore order meant annihilation. How long until they arrive? Chun asked. 6 days. Chun nodded slowly. Evacuate who you can. We are coming. She cut the channel and turned to her bridge crew. They were humans and non-humans together. Velith officers. Silith technicians. A Gorath weapons master who had sworn a life debt to humanity after they saved his family. This was what humanity had built. Not an empire, but a family. Send the signal, Chun said. Call everyone home. The message went out across the galaxy. The Farjiji galaxy. It traveled on every frequency, in every language, to every corner of known space. Ericsson's landing is under threat. The Council means to destroy them. We are going to stop them. If you believe in what we have built, if you believe that the galaxy can be more than empires and thrones, come now. We will need every ship, every hand, every heart. They came. From the outer colonies, from hidden bases, from forgotten stations, they came. Human ships and Velith ships and Silith ships and dozens of others. Traders who had never fired a weapon in their lives. Miners with converted cargo haulers. Refugees who had lost everything and had nothing left to lose. They were not a fleet. They were a movement. The Council Armada arrived at Ericsson's landing, expecting an easy victory. 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, crewed by the finest soldiers of a dozen elder races, armed with weapons that could crack planets. They found 312 ships waiting for them. The human fleet was smaller, weaker, slower. Many of the ships were held together with hope and welding. Some had no weapons at all, but every single one of them refused to move. The Council commander, a Kravith lord named Vexen, opened a channel. This is your only warning. Surrender the colony and disperse, or we will destroy you all. Admiral Chun answered. My name is Chen Weilin. I am a daughter of Earth, which no longer exists. I am a mother, a soldier, and a human being. And I am not going to let you murder 2 million innocent people. You cannot stop us. Maybe not. But I can make you pay for every life you take. I can make sure the galaxy sees what you really are. I can make this moment matter. Vexen cut the channel. Destroy them, he ordered. The Battle of Ericsson's Landing lasted 9 days. It should have lasted 9 hours. The Council fleet had every advantage. Their weapons were stronger. Their shields were thicker. Their soldiers were better trained, but they had never fought an enemy like this. The humans did not fight to win. They fought to survive. They fought to buy time. They fought with every trick, every tactic, every desperate gamble they could imagine. They rigged asteroids with explosives and launched them at the enemy fleet. They broadcast false communications to create confusion. They rammed Council ships with crewless vessels. They evacuated colonists while still under fire. Shuttles diving through battle lines with nothing but speed and luck. And everywhere, on every frequency, they played music. Songs about freedom. Songs about love. Songs about refusing to surrender. The Council crews had never heard anything like it. Some of them started to hesitate. Some of them started to wonder what they were really fighting for. On the 5th day, 3 Council ships defected. Their crews were Silith. Young officers who had grown up hearing stories about the humans who saved Medical Station Theta 7. They could not bring themselves to destroy people who had once saved their own. On the 7th day, the Velith fleet withdrew. The Velith admiral sent a single message to the Council command. We did not sign up for genocide. Find someone else to do your killing. On the 9th day, the Council fleet broke. They did not lose in the traditional sense. They still had more ships, more weapons, more power. But they had lost something more important. They had lost the will to fight. Too many of their soldiers had seen too much. The humans were not monsters. They were parents protecting children. They were doctors treating the wounded. They were farmers who wanted nothing more than to grow food in peace. The council could not make their soldiers hate enemies who kept singing, kept hoping, kept refusing to give up. Vexen retreated with what remained of his fleet. His career was over. His reputation was ash. But he was glad to be alive, and he never forgot the sight of those tiny, human ships charging toward him with nothing but stubbornness and fire. Admiral Chun stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, surrounded by the wreckage of both fleets. Her ship was barely functional. Half her crew was dead or wounded. She had not slept in 4 days, but she opened a channel to every system in the galaxy. This is Admiral Chun Weilin of the Human Alliance. We did not come here to conquer. We came because we had nowhere else to go. But if you force us to fight, know this. We have already lost everything once. We have nothing left to fear. She paused, looking at the stars. The Council claims to rule the galaxy. But the galaxy belongs to everyone. Every species. Every world. Every being who has ever looked up at the stars and wondered if there was something more. Today we proved that the powerful are not invincible. Today we proved that hope is stronger than fear. She smiled, tired and bloody and triumphant. Tomorrow, we build something better. Across the galaxy, in stations and colonies and hidden refuges, beings of 100 species heard that message. And for the first time in 10,000 cycles, they believed it. 100 cycles had passed since the Wanderers first arrived. Ambassador Keth Vorn stood at the observation deck of Station Prime, the same place where he had first seen those battered human ships drifting out of the dark. He was old now, his scales faded to pale gray, his movements slow and careful. But his mind was still sharp, and his eyes still watched everything. The station had changed. Once it had been a monument to council power, cold and imposing, and designed to make visitors feel small. Now it was alive with color and noise. Banners hung from the ceilings, representing 40 different species. Music played in the corridors, a dozen styles mixing together into something new. Children ran past, chasing each other, laughing in languages that had not existed a century ago. The galaxy had changed. The Council of 12 Thrones was now the Council of 40 voices. Species that had once been dismissed as vermin held seats of power. Laws had been rewritten. Trade routes had been opened. Borders that had stood for millennia had been dissolved. And humans were everywhere. They had not conquered. They had not built an empire. They had refused every offer of political power. Instead, they had become something stranger, the connective tissue of a new civilization. Human doctors served on stations across the galaxy. Human teachers worked in schools on 100 worlds. Human mediators settled disputes between species that had been enemies for longer than humanity had existed. They were trusted by everyone because they owed allegiance to no one. Keth Vorm watched a human family walk past. A father, a mother, 2 children, and an elderly Velith who seemed to be a grandmother of some kind. They were laughing about something, comfortable with each other in a way that still amazed him. How had this happened? He had watched it happen, and he still did not fully understand. A familiar voice spoke behind him. "You look thoughtful, Ambassador." He turned to find Yellen Vasquez standing there. She was old too, her hair completely white, her face lined with decades of struggle and joy. But her smile was the same, that unsettling, teeth-baring, somehow warm expression that he had learned to recognize as genuine happiness. "Commander Vasquez," he said. "Or is it Admiral now? I lose track of your titles." "Just Yellen. I retired from the military 40 cycles ago. These days, I teach history to children who were not born when most of it happened." He nodded slowly. "I wanted to speak with you. Before I die, there is a question I have carried for 100 cycles. Ask." Keth Vorn gathered his thoughts. He had spent decades thinking about this question, refining it, trying to find the right words. When your people first arrived, I filed a report. I said there was something in you that our metrics did not capture. Something we could not measure or understand. I have watched your species for 100 cycles, and I still do not know what that something is. He looked at her directly. What are you? What power do you carry that we could not see? Yellen was quiet for a long moment. She looked out at the station, at the children playing, at the beings of 40 species going about their daily lives in peace. When our son died, she said finally, we had 30 cycles warning. 30 cycles to save 4 billion people with technology that could barely reach our own moon. She paused. The scientists said it was impossible. The politicians argued about who should be saved. The wealthy tried to buy their way onto ships that did not exist yet. It should have been chaos. It should have been the end of everything, but it was not. No, because somewhere in a small city on a small continent, a group of engineers decided that impossible was just a word. They built a ship, a prototype. It should not have worked, but it did. And when people saw that ship fly, they stopped arguing about whether salvation was possible and started working on how to make it happen. She smiled. That is what humans are, Ambassador. We are the species that decides things should be possible, and then makes them possible. We are not stronger or smarter or more advanced than anyone else. We are just stubborn. We look at the universe and refuse to accept that it cannot be better. That is not power, Kethvorin said slowly. That is just stubbornness. Is there a difference? He considered this. The elder races have real power, ships, weapons, technology beyond anything you possess. Yes, and what did they do with that power? They built empires to crush others. They made laws to protect their privilege. They looked at the galaxy and decided it should serve them. She gestured at the station around them. We looked at the galaxy and decided it should serve everyone. We did not conquer because we did not want to. We wanted neighbors, not subjects. We wanted friends, not servants. And somehow, against all logic, that turned out to be more powerful than any fleet. Kethvorin was silent for a long time. That night, alone in his quarters, he accessed files he had not opened in decades. The ancient texts from the first architects. The prophecies that Morith had shown the council so long ago, which they had dismissed as nonsense. He found the passage he was looking for. The one Morith had never fully translated. Beware the wanderers, last born of our children. They carry no gift but the one we could not give, the fire that makes gods from dust. He read on, finding words that had been hidden, encrypted, waiting for someone to unlock them. The wanderers will not rule the stars. They will teach the stars to rule themselves. They will show the children of the galaxy that power is not found in weapons or conquest, but in the choice to build rather than destroy. And the final line, when the last throne crumbles, when the last empire falls, when the galaxy finally understands that it was never meant to be ruled, only then will you see what we truly made the wanderers for. They are not conquerors. They are gardeners. They plant seeds of possibility in barren soil, and they wait for others to grow. Kethvorin closed the file. He looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a cold moon in a forgotten system, the first human city still stood. It was a museum now, a monument to the journey that had brought humanity to the galaxy. Visitors came from every corner of known space to see it. They came to see the place where the fire started. And in every corner of the galaxy, in stations and colonies and ships between the stars, the fire still burned. Not in humans alone, but in everyone they had touched. In Velith merchants who had learned to dream. In Silith scholars who had learned to question. In Garth warriors who had learned that strength could be used to protect instead of conquer. The humans had not brought a weapon to the galaxy. They had brought a question. What if things could be better? And the galaxy, after 100 cycles, was still finding the answer. Far away, on the rebuilt world of Ericsson's Landing, a human child sat with her grandmother and looked up at the stars. "Tell me the story again," the child said. "About how we came here. About the wanderers." The grandmother smiled and began to speak. "A long time ago, our sun was dying. We had nothing. No ships, no plan, no hope. But we decided to survive anyway. We built ships out of courage and stubbornness, and we flew into the dark. The galaxy thought we were nobody. They thought we would disappear." She pointed up at the stars, at the lights of ships and stations and worlds that had not existed when she was young. But we did not disappear. We made friends. We told stories. We planted seeds. And now look at what has grown. The child looked up in wonder. "Will we keep growing forever?" The grandmother held her close. "I do not know, little one. But I know this. As long as there are humans, as long as there is even one of us left, we will keep asking what if. We will keep dreaming of better. We will keep refusing to give up." She kissed the child's forehead. "That is what humans do. We wander into the dark, and we carry the fire with us." Above them, the stars burned on, and the galaxy was full of light.